G'day folks, this is Joel from Foc, and this is the cost-effective machinery and vehicle maintenance additives channel. Now today we're going to do a flush, start of a flush on a Kia diesel van, 2.7 litre diesel van. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a piece of paper, and I'm going to dip, see here we've got before oil flush compound, after oil flush compound. So I'm going to put some drips on the paper here now. I'm going to add the flush. I'm going to drive the vehicle for about 300-400 Ks, and then we're going to do the oil change. Now this vehicle has previously had a half-hour flush run around town, but it was missed a few services and was a little bit badly maintained, had a bit of an overrun, and so it wasn't in a real good state. Now when we emptied the oil the first time, before we did the flush, it was like molasses. We put the flush treatment in, ran around town for about half an hour, and then the new oil come out pretty well like molasses. But it's not totally 100% clean. I've noticed that with vehicles that have a lot of Ks on them and have had known issues, that it takes a little bit more than that half hour to get it clean. And I've done this successfully. Currently my boat here, we're running flush in that. We've put one tank through, which is 15 hours with the flush in the oil, and we're about to put another tank through, which will be another 15 hours with the flush in the oil, because it's really been neglected. Now why with a diesel you've got to do the paper test is, in a petrol you can dip the oil before the flush and look at the colour, and then you can compare the colour as we have on previous videos after the flush. With a diesel, you pull the dipstick out, it's black. When you pull it out after, it's black. You really can't tell how much soot and stuff is in there. So the easiest way to do is you put some drips on the paper. In a minute we'll get a bit of paper and show you what I mean for some previous tests. And then when you drop the oil, you do the same. You let that soak in and dry for a day or so, and then you come back and you'll definitely see the difference. So we're just going to take a pause now, and we'll come back soon. Now we're just doing this oil spot test for this Kia van, and we're just going to put a few drips off the dipstick on the paper. I'll just go get some more oil. Because Darren never checks it. Yeah, so it's not using oil, see that?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't checked it. Actually, what you're supposed to do technically with a flame and oil check is supposed to pull it out, wipe it clean, which I had. It might have used a touch, but not much, like it's still close. G'day folks, this is Joel from Foc, and we're the cost-effective machinery and motor vehicle additives channel. Now we're back and we're showing you how to test on your diesel as to whether you get any more soot or not after you add the oil flushing compound just before an oil change. Now here's a couple of things I promised you. Now here we have some spots here you can see that were from the Epica. Now when I put them on, they were just as black as those spots, but after a couple of days they soaked in, and they're a light grey colour. Put the flush in the Epica, and it did 800 Ks, emptied the oil. Now you can see the difference. Light grey to a dark grey. Heck of a lot more carbon and soot there that's pulled out. Now if you'd just done an oil change, just drop the oil and put new oil in, all this rubbish is still in your engine. add the flush, it pulls it out. It's a bit like when you let the water out of your sink, you grab the curly girl and you give the sink a bit of a scrub and you make it all nice and clean. Now, I've actually seen a sink that an old lady never ever used to wipe or wash anything down, and it was literally as black as that. And basically that's what happens to your engine. If you don't clean it out, then just because you dump the oil and put new oil in, it doesn't clean it. Inside is full of crusty stuff, black stuff, slime, sludge, all sorts of horrible nasties that basically are running through your bearings. You know, they're grit, it's muck, it's wearing it, it's causing damage. For a few dollars, you can add the flush to your oil. You need to do the treatment specifically for the first time, but after that, before you're going to do an oil change, drop a bit in, drive it for a few Ks, get your oil change done. Now, you might say, I don't work on my vehicle. Hey, that's easy. Pop the bonnet, tip a bit of stuff in. Friday afternoon, you take it down to the mechanic and he changes the oil. You've driven it for the week, you've done the flush. When he drops the oil out of it, it's going to get rid of all the muck. So that was the difference between the Holden Epica diesel before and after. Now, this one here, this is actually our boat. It's got a Volvo Penta diesel in it. And that was the oil before. Put the flush in. This was only a 30-minute one, but the vehicle was very, very dirty. Put the flush in. You can see the difference. And here's the petrol one that I did. Oil out of a Camry, 50,000 Ks, and then afterwards. And you can see it's a lot dirtier, and you can see that there's actually active contaminants around the edge of the oil that's flowed. So that's the reason for the flush. It basically gives your engine a spring clean and restores it back to as close as new as possible, so that when you put your new oil in, and preferably you add your anti-wear to it to reduce the friction, it's going to get the best possible start it can out of that new oil. Whereas if you don't flush it, there's all that stuff stuck in there. And believe you me, folks, I've been surprised. This Camry here only had 50,000 Ks on it. Now, if I'd have dropped the oil and put new oil back in, all this muck is still stuck inside it. Same with the diesels. Now, it's going to be interesting because this diesel has had a flush. So this is a normal maintenance when we've cleaned it out. It's going to be interesting to see how much muck it uses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the flushing compound, the oil flushing compound. I'm going to put it into the oil, and my son Annie does probably 100 Ks or so a week in this thing, so we're going to leave it till it's done probably 200-300 Ks, and then we're going to drop the oil. So we're going to come back and we're going to do the test again, and we're going to see how much this engine has actually been cleaned out just in a general running. It's done, I think it was 10,000 since the last change, 10,000 kilometres. We're going to see how much rubbish it actually pulls out of the engine after it's had a major clean. So tune in next time, folks, and we'll also show you how to add the oil flushing compound.